Welcome to Let's Connect Greater Portland, a show about the changes and challenges we face and the great things that people are doing to make Greater Portland a fantastic place to live, work, and play. I'm Kristina Egan, your host. Today, we're talking about the possibility of a rapid transit line connecting the cities of Portland, Westbrook, and the town of Gorham. I'm here with two staff members from the Greater Portland Council of Governments that are part of the project team. Transit Program Manager Andrew Clark and Communications Specialist Teagan Betori are here with us. If you have a question, give us a call at 207-780-4909. Again, that's 780-4909. Andrew and Teagan, I've had you both on the show before, and I'm so glad to have you back. Welcome, Andrew.
Hi, glad to be back.
Hey. Yeah, nice to have you, Teagan. So we're going to dive right in, since our listeners already know you. And Andrew, I'd love to have you define for everybody what is rapid transit and what makes it different from regular public transportation.
So, regular transit, regular public transportation, you think about a bus, you might be sitting in traffic, you might be stuck at a red light, you might be going a little bit slow, you're watching the cars sort of go by you, you're stuck in, so rapid transit
slow.
Is all about, how do we make this a little bit faster? And you might think of something like a subway, and a subway, zips underneath the city streets, and suddenly you pop up in a different part of the city. That was how it was done, 100 years ago, when we had all kinds of public money floating around. We don't have that kind of money anymore, but really it's about how can you create a service that kind of replicates that kind of experience. We're not getting stuck in traffic. We're not waiting at red lights. You can pay your fare.
How does that work? How is it not stuck in traffic? How is it not waiting at red lights?
Two critical pieces are what we call a dedicated transit lane. And you might see this in other cities painted red. They'll say bus only, transit only, train only, something like that. Ordinary traffic is not permitted in that lane. So it really speeds up service for the transit vehicle. You can get through the congestion faster.
So the cars are whizzing by, but you're whizzing forward.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And then for the signals piece, how can we deal with these pesky red lights? There is technology available, and it basically communicates between the vehicle and the traffic signal, and it says when a bus is coming, the traffic signal knows to keep the light green a little bit longer, or if it's red, to turn the light green a little bit quicker, so you're not stuck waiting at red lights if you have a bus full of dozens of people.
So is the idea that it will become just as fast and convenient as taking a car?
That is the idea. Yeah, we want a service that is competitive, with driving a car in terms of speed, reliability, travel times, and just your overall experience and convenience.
So are there other places around the country that people may have been where they could see this in action? Because I imagine it's hard to imagine, if you've only experienced public transportation in Maine, that it could actually work as well as a car.
Yes, there are a number of good sort of peer cities that we've looked at, similar sized cities and regions. Richmond, Virginia has a pretty successful system that they've just installed. Eugene, Oregon, Birmingham, Alabama. Boston is a big city, a big place, but they've also, they of course have the subway system, but they've also sort of transitioned into also making certain bus lines, look and feel like a train, so that it has that reliability, it has that travel time savings, the frequency. And
in our area, we don't have a lot of people, right? The whole state is about 1.3 million, and in the greater Portland area, we're at, 280, 300,000 people. Is there the density or the number of people that would really make this work?
There's a couple ways to answer that, I think. For one, the project team has looked at similar projects that are in development right now and the ridership that they are projecting. And we are not last. Let's put it that way. We have sort of done the feasibility assessment. We know that this is feasible, this is viable. But we also know that this is an aspirational project from the very beginning. This is the definition of a build it and they will come kind of service.
And did this project come out of an overall vision for the future of public transportation in this region? And can you tell us why something like this is on the study block?
Yeah, it did. The broader vision for transit in the region comes from a plan called Transit Tomorrow. And Transit Tomorrow has 4 main goals, and one of those goals is to invest in rapid transit.
So right now you're looking at a particular line, which we'll get into, but is there a vision that would be kind of crisscrossing the region?
Yes. Yep. So this study right now is for the Gorham, Westbrook, Portland corridor, but that is only one route throughout what is envisioned to be a regional network.
And where are some of the other routes that might be studied in the future?
Down to Biddeford-Saco area, South Portland, north towards Brunswick, and out towards North Windham. So there's a handful.
Yeah, and there is a train right now, the Downeaster, that runs from, actually all the way from Boston, but through Saco, Biddeford to Portland and up to Brunswick. Is that rapid transit, or is that? And how are you thinking about rail as you're thinking about this corridor out to Gorham?
So the Amtrak Downeaster is considered commuter rail. The one sort of difference here, rapid, also needs to come with a certain level of frequency. So this corridor that we're looking at would be a 10-minute frequency between Portland and Westbrook, and 20 minutes out to Gorham. So that's a really high frequent service. You're not relying on a schedule. You're not dedicating a whole day to figure out how you're going to get from one place to another. The frequency really is what really makes this a viable travel alternative for folks.
So, wow, 10 minutes or 20 minutes frequency, that is more frequent than I think our buses run. Is that right?
Yeah, I should have this committed to memory, but I think the existing Husky line and Route 4 both run somewhere around every 30 minutes. So there would be quite a bump up from that.
And that Husky line and Route 4 is run by Metro.
Yes.
Okay, and it goes from Portland to the same area, but has much less frequency and is probably slower at this moment.
Yes. Back to the stuck in traffic and stuck at red lights pieces that we're trying to solve.
Yeah, got it. So as you were looking at how best to introduce rapid transit to that corridor from Portland to Gorham, did you consider the rail line? I know there's a rail that goes from the Portland Transportation Center further out, actually maybe to Freiburg and the New Hampshire border.
Yep. So there is an active rail line that goes to downtown Westbrook, and there's actually an old right-of-way that goes out from Westbrook to Gorham and goes out to Rochester, New Hampshire, that way. We did look at that. When we started this study, I should say, we were so-called mode agnostic. We didn't care whether it's going to be a bus or a train or whatever. Really, you want to look at the service first and then figure out the tool that's going to get you there. And so as we went down that road, we found sort of a viable ridership level, viable service opportunity here. But then you start to look at the existing assets. And the existing rail alignments don't really work for what we're trying to do. Of course, the old segment in Gorham has now been converted to a popular multi-use path, bike trail and stuff through the woods. And so we like that. We didn't want to take that away. And then you've got the rail from Portland to Westbrook, but that doesn't get you all the way out to Gorham. So we pivoted to a roadway-based alignment.
Right now, I'm talking with Andrew Clark, who is the Transportation Program Manager at the Greater Portland Council of Governments, and also Communications Specialist Teagan Betori. And we are part of Let's Connect, a show that's exploring the great issues and the great people that are leading the way for the future of Greater Portland. I'm Kristina Egan. We'd love to have your thoughts about rapid transit. We've got some experts here to answer your questions and take your comments. So call in at 780-4909, again, 780-4909. Andrew, I'd like to dive in a little bit more deeply to this proposed corridor. One of my understandings is when you have public transportation, you want it to serve where people are already living and working. So how does this corridor hit those kind of villages and downtowns?
Pretty well. There are two key anchors on either end. Of course, the Portland USM campus and the Gorham USM campus.
Ah, that's nice bookends.
Yeah.
We're sitting right here at the Portland campus.
Yep.
It would serve this area.
So, maybe someday when we go to the podcast studio, you can ride rapid transit right there.
I can't wait. That's going to be great.
And so coming in from USM Gorham, you pick up sort of downtown Gorham Center, downtown Westbrook, all of this activity along Brighton Ave, and, everything that's happening in the Rock Row area. Scoot down into USM Portland. We're trying to pick up Main Med or get kind of as close as you can. Huge opportunity there with all of the employment numbers that they have. So how can we grow ridership there? And then going down the peninsula and eventually making your way to the eastern waterfront. So we're really trying to connect a lot of the high ridership generating locations.
That makes a lot of sense. Maybe we could do a little bit of a dive into numbers, both about how much is this going to cost and how many people do you think it's actually going to serve?
So I only have relative costs at this point.
Yeah, because you're still in the projections. Phase,
And there's a lot of details still to be worked out. What does this actually look like in terms of reconstructing the roadway? How much does the stations cost? How much does a new fleet cost? So I mean, relative. I'm not going to tell you it's not high. It is a high cost project.
Rapid transit is in general.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah, it's a significant investment, but you weigh that investment against what you're getting in terms of ridership increases and the congestion mitigation and the climate benefits and the equity. A
lot of reasons for people to get out of their cars and hop on public transportation, but I think the challenge in Maine, frankly, is just that it's not that convenient right now and it's not that fast.
Yep.
And so this is really trying to address that.
Exactly. Yep. I mean, if you get your car parked in your driveway and you're trying to go anywhere, you just walk out into your driveway, you get in your car, and off you go.
It's very easy to use a car in Maine.
It's very easy, and if you want to use, the existing bus, you want to look at the schedule, and you might see, maybe I just missed it, and the next one's not coming for 25 minutes or something like that. Well, this 25 minutes still counts as part of your trip. You wanted to go, but you can't yet because the bus isn't there for you. And so it's about 15 minutes. We know sort of rule of thumb in the industry. 15-minute frequency or better means you don't have to rely on a schedule anymore. You no longer have to program your entire day around the bus schedule.
So this question is for either or both of you about kind of what we've heard from people in our region about what they want. And I'm wondering, Teagan or Andrew, do you have any information about how much people want this line?
You can take it, Andrew.
I mean, I think what we know is that from all of the transit planning in this region that we've been doing over the years, decades really, the feedback has been consistent. We want more frequent service. We want faster travel times. We want increased hours of operation, early mornings, late nights. We want better connections between the different services, right? So we have Metro, we've got the train, we've got the ferry, we've got other things. All of these things have been coalescing and they've been consistent for a long time. And so a lot of the work that we're doing is trying to actually realize these things that people have been asking for a long time.
And Teagan, we're at a milestone in this project where we want to hear more from people who may ride it or who could benefit from it because they're motorists and might have less traffic to be in. Can you tell us a little bit about how folks can weigh in as we move this project toward the finish line?
Absolutely. So we're at a really exciting point in the project. When we started, we knew we wanted a line from Portland to Westbrook to Gorham. We didn't know where that would be. We didn't know how frequent it would be. We didn't know what times of day it would operate. We don't have all the details nailed down, but we narrowed it down to 4 routes, and now we're down to 1 that we think will work. So we're hosting an open house next week in Westbrook at Riverbank Park, Wednesday, July 26th. Join us from 5 to 7. Andrew will be there. It's a good opportunity to talk with the project team. And as I said, it's exciting. When we started this project, it was very abstract. And now we know, we could have frequency as fast as every, 10 minutes, which is transformative. You don't have to plan your day around when the bus is coming. You could just hop outside and get on the bus, and that's really exciting.
Teagan, can you repeat again the date and time and place?
Yep, so Wednesday, July 26th from 5 to 7 p.m. at Riverbank Park in Westbrook. There will be tents, so I know it's a rainy summer, but hopefully it won't rain, and if it does, we'll be covered. We also do have a virtual meeting the following week, so if you want to learn more and register, you can go to rapidtransitforme.org.
And there's an opportunity right now for us to hear from folks.
Yes, absolutely. So if you're on the other line and you're like, what are they talking about? Call in. We want to hear your questions at 207-780-4909.
Great. And what's the question that we want to ask folks?
Well, I'm really curious what people are excited about. I want to get a sense of, is this exciting for people? I think if you ride the bus already, this is really exciting, but I'm hoping that people that have never stepped onto the bus in their life find this exciting, because it could mean that, if they live in a household with 2 cars, maybe they could get rid of a car, if they could rely more on public transportation. So we want to hear from people who use it all the time. We also want to hear from people who have never used public transportation in their life.
So, Andrew, as we're getting ready to hear from members of the public about this proposal, can you kind of give us the broad stroke of what people will be commenting on and what the alignment looks like right now? Teagan referenced that there were a whole bunch of different ways that we could serve people, many different corridors, many different streets that we could have picked, and it was narrowed down to 4, and now we're at kind of a primary corridor. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, and I will preface this with there's a lot of discussion yet to be had. This is still sort of the highest level of planning that we can do. And once you settle on, what you think is the right way to go forward, then you start to dig deeper and, solve all of these little questions that are going to pop up.
The
big
devil
questions.
devil in the details stuff, right?
I mean, it'll be a huge project. There's a lot to iron out. But broadly, we're looking at a service that would start in the USM Gorham area. A key thing that the town of Gorham is interested in is a park and ride, because one of the challenges over there is commuters from the west who are basically, clogging up local village streets. So we're going to try and work with the town of Gorham to identify a good park and ride location, hit USM, then you're going through Village Center.
The Village Center of
Gorham.
Gorham.
Yep. Then you're along Route 25 into downtown Westbrook. You get over to the Rock Row area, and then we're, ideally targeting Brighton Ave all the way down into USM Portland, and then you make your way over to Congress Street, or, it could be a combination of Congress Street and Cumberland Ave to sort of travel lengthwise along the peninsula, and then you get down over to Eastern Waterfront via Franklin.
So it sounds like the rapid bus, would be stopping at a limited number of places rather than kind of being a slow local. Is that right?
Yeah, that's another piece of rapid transit, is you want to have fewer stops as best you can, because the process of stopping, that takes time. You slow the vehicle down, you stop, people getting on and off. Maybe, with local service, you're sort of fumbling with your change, or I can never seem to get my thing to read quick enough.
That's an issue I have.
Right, and then you're holding up the line behind you, and oh gosh. So you solve some of that problem by eliminating some of these stops, as long as we can make it so it's not too far of a walk for folks.
You're listening right now to Let's Connect Greater Portland, a show about the issues we face in Greater Portland and the movers and shakers that are leading the way. I'm Kristina Egan, and we're talking today with Andrew Clark, the Transit Program Manager at the Greater Portland Council of Governments, and Teagan, Betori, who is our communications specialist. We have a caller on the line, and before we take the caller, I just want to remind folks we welcome your calls, and please give us a buzz here at 780-4909. Okay, let's hear from your caller.
Hi.
Hi.
My name is Josh. I live in Gorham.
Hey, Josh. Great to hear from you.
Hi. I drive into the peninsula for work, and I do this commute a lot, and I think obviously I'm excited to see better transit options on the corridor, but I also see a lot of where the traffic is, and I don't always think, especially on Brighton is not the jammed up part of the corridor, and I'm sure as the council knows, in this whole conversation with the Gorham connector, a lot of the traffic is sort of southbound, more or less, in between like Gorham and Scarborough and South Portland area. And so I was curious, I know you guys, it's obviously meant for more like the Westbrook the Westbrook Portland traffic makes sense on Brighton. But as far as like Gorham and farther west points commuting, I don't know if that goes straight along that 25 corridor. So I was just curious, how this is going to interact with the Gorham connector, and kind of curious about some of that stuff, I guess. But I appreciate what you guys are doing.
Hey, Josh, thanks so much. Andrew, you want to take that?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with Josh. I think a lot of the traffic really is, towards the south of Gorham and getting into the main mall area. But, if that is your commute, you could hit the park and ride and then zip in along this rapid transit service into downtown. We're also, by having the route here, you're hitting a lot of the existing density. The downtowns, the shops, the restaurants, the neighborhoods just off of Brighton Ave and Route 25 all the way down. So, I think this is consistent with alleviating traffic in the region broadly. The last thing I would add is that we do want to be targeted in our investments. So if there's a place that truly doesn't see a lot of congestion along this proposed route, we can have a light touch in our intervention there. If the bus is not getting stuck in traffic, then fine. What more do you need to do? If there are certain intersections or certain blocks where we know it gets congested, that's where you want to be more targeted in helping transit get through that.
That's great. So really that you want it to act like a train as much as it can, and in some places you won't have to really make many modifications for the bus to just whiz along.
Sometimes it's already good enough.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, transportation planning is always this real challenge of balancing how you're going to use the public right-of-way.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, is it going to be for a sidewalk, a bikeway, a bus, a car, and trying to really hit the balance point so that all users can use it. We've had Teagan on before to talk a little bit about how this balancing act has played out in other cities, particularly Copenhagen. And I think sometimes we struggle here in the Portland area to imagine how the world could be different than it is. And I'm wondering if you have any thoughts, Teagan, about how Copenhagen is doing that balancing act between public transportation and vehicles, private vehicles.
Well, it all interacts. They have a huge bicycle network, and that interacts with the way that transportation works, right? Public transportation. So I think these things are all connected, right? You might have someone bike to a park and ride, right? And then get on the bus. But as Andrew mentioned, you don't actually have to go overseas to see rapid transit. You can go to Boston, which is an hour and a half away, to see it.
And by train.
Yeah. I do that all the time. So I was joking earlier, or before we went on air, that, our region hasn't seen anything this bold. And then I said, wait, we had a streetcar. and so a lot of what we do now is just trying to bring back what we used to have.
Back to the future.
Yep. So I'm really excited about this project.
The Downeaster was a very transformative project for this region to have rail line service all the way to Boston. I know a lot of people use it. And this is at that kind of similar magnitude in terms of a kind of a really big leap forward in terms of the quality of public transportation service. Andrew, tell us a little bit more about why people might use this and get out of their cars.
Hopefully because it is just so easy and obvious of an alternative, right? So if you're going out to Westbrook to have dinner or something, why bother getting in the car and putting gas in the tank and then dealing with parking, and you go to dinner and perhaps you imbibe or whatever, and you don't have to worry about driving home. Let's just make transit super easy and super obvious as the alternative.
And Joshua, our caller, was referencing traffic, and if traffic grows in this area, does it make it more attractive to get on a bus?
Well, yeah. I mean, especially if we can provide the level of dedicated space that we're hoping we can. There's no better advertisement for transit than being stuck in traffic and watching a bus whiz by you.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. So as we think about what it's going to feel like for a customer hopping on, tell us a little bit about what the experience might be as they're at a stop, what kind of fare they might pay, what it's going to feel like when they're on the bus.
One big thing about a rapid transit service is that it kind of needs to look snazzy. Like they have big stations, there are maps there, there's probably going to be signage that would say the next vehicle is coming in 6 minutes or 2 minutes or whatever.
Like a train.
Like a train, like a train station. And so ticket vending machines, there's some unanswered questions about what paying fares would look like, but you could imagine a ticket vending machine where you'd pay in advance, the bus shows up, all doors open, everybody on, everybody off, and it zips off. Benches, shelters, bike parking.
Teagan, you're a bus rider. How's that sound to you?
Amazing. I would love that. I mean, like I said, this is transformative for people. And I know people are convinced that Americans love cars. I'm convinced that people just like to get to where they need to go quickly and comfortably. And so
sometimes a car can really be a burden when you're trying to find parking, for example, and having to pay for it.
Yeah, it's expensive. I mean, whatever the fare is for this rapid transit line, it'll certainly be cheaper than owning a car and paying for gas every month. So
it's been great having you guys here talking about this project. Really exciting. Thank you, Teagan.
Thank you.
And thank you, Andrew.
Thank you.
I hope to have you back when we learn a little bit more about how this project is advancing and we start teeing it up for some federal funding. I also want to thank Joshua Brister, who is our sound engineer in WMPG, who collaborates with the Greater Portland Council of Governments in producing this show. You can reach us on Instagram at Let's Connect Radio. Join us next week for another conversation about the great work that's happening in our communities. Until then, be kind to yourself and to each other. I'm Kristina Egan. See you next time on Let's Connect Greater Portland.